Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have a deck profile for you, and we are playing Orcust, or at least we were. This is Orcust, Horus, Bystial, and Phantom Knights, so 4 decks all in, I think it was like 42, 43 cards, something like that. I played this a couple times at locals, and I took it to a remote dual regional. I didn't do great in the regional. I dropped after going 1-1-2, just not a great matchup spread. But I think it's a fun deck. I don't think it's the best deck in the room for sure. But if you want to go ahead and play, especially this kind of build, I'll give you my take on it and show you what I have. So let's go ahead and get on into the deck profile. So here we are with the cards. So let's go ahead and space these out. So to begin with, we are on 3 copies of Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. This card is insane. Harp to 1 made such a big difference. It really did. This guy is full combo on his own, no additional cards needed, and if you have some extra extenders or something like that, you can play through Interruption, obviously. After that, we have the triple Scrap Recycler. This is a really, it's a decent second copy of Girsu. The truth is that this doesn't do nearly as much. You do need an extra extender to get the full board, but you can still do full Orcust combo off of this card. We're also on 3 Nightmare. Some lists are opting to cut it, but I just love the fact that when you pitch this for an Imseti or for a King Sarcophagus activation, it's like, well, your opponent can Ash it, but then they just have to deal with the Nightmare on the crackback. We're on 2 Symbol Skeleton. This could be cut down to 1, I will be honest, but there's a lot of times where, especially in a grind game, the second one did come up, so I think it's worth playing the 2. We are obviously on the 1 Harp Horror. This probably shouldn't come back to more than 1. I think it's a little too crazy, even at 1. Does literally everything from the deck, or does literally everything for the deck, summons an Orcust from your deck, and that's all it really needs to do. We're also on the 1 World Wand. People are cutting this, which I just don't understand. It gives you so much extra extension. I get that it's a hard garnet for the deck, and this deck is playing a lot of hard garnets. But if you draw it, you can just pitch it for a King Sark. It's pretty good. We're on the 1 Babel and the 1 Crescendo. You could be on returns, at least 1 return. There were definitely times where, setting the Babel or setting the Crescendo didn't feel great, especially because you don't end on an Orcust Link monster. Setting Crescendo isn't that strong. So setting return and being able to return, draw 2 cards, hopefully draw into a hand trap or something, would probably be better, but I just didn't have them. I couldn't get them in time, so oh well. So on to the next part of the deck. We have the Horus cards. We're on triple Imseti. I'm very glad I picked these up at like 25 a piece. These have skyrocketed to like 65, 70, so very glad I have these. It's a good card. It's the Horus engine's really strong, but I can't sit here and say that it's the best engine in the game. Obviously, Diabell Star is probably better, but I like the rank 8 pool. I like what the Horus cards do, just constantly recurring themselves every turn, and they are just massive. They can really kill your opponent into the sun out of nowhere. We're on only 2 King Sarcophagus. It's not the easiest thing in the world to get to, but we really only need the 2. And then we're on just 1 Happy. There were definitely times where I'm like, I probably should play a 3rd name, but already just in 2 engines, we've got 2 to 3 garnets, however you want to look at it. We've got the Happy, we got the World Wand, and we've got the Harp, all cards that you don't really want to draw. You'd rather have them in deck. Playing another garnet is probably a little too much. So on to the next engine, we have Bystials. So we're on 2 Lubellion. Definitely should play the 3rd if you have it. I just don't have it, so I didn't bother playing it. We're on 2 Druis Worm, 1 Magnamut, 1 Sorinir, and then 1 Regained. All in all, this is I'm gonna say it, I didn't like the Bystials as much as I thought. I thought it'd do a lot for the deck. Regained plus SP Little Knight is insane. Just basically constantly removing everything from your opponent's grip every turn and plussing you an advantage. But the truth is, you don't have an easy way to get to it. I played Bystials in Black Wings, and with the Sorinir, if you drew the Sorinir, it's just an extender, you synchro it off, and Sorinir send Lubellion. Lubellion can pop the Blackwing Dragon, get it engraved, and set up Regain. Here you don't have that. You don't have an easy way to get to a dragon. You do if you start with the King Sarks, and you can make a Dispater, but you don't really want to get rid of your Dispater. You kind of want it to stick around. So unfortunately, I think the Bystials are a definite cut, especially if you're trying to shave some money for this deck. I think you could do decently just playing either other extenders or maybe more hand traps. And then the final engine is the Phantom Knight engine. We're on 2 boots, 1 cloak, and then we're on double sword, and then 1 Shade Brigandine. So people have been telling me not to play the PK engine. I really like it, and the reason I like it is because it gives you non-monster interaction. You have ways of interacting with your opponent's board that don't lose to things like Dark Ruler, don't lose to things like Forbidden Droplet, stuff like that. And it's just really, really nice to be able to have those interactions. The downside is because they're a known quantity, like my opponent knows I searched 2 Fog Blades, there's absolutely no way they're going to let me get very far. They're going to play around it, but still, just knowing that a Fog Blade is set can sometimes cause your opponent to misplay a little bit. So I really like it. I would recommend people give it a shot, but I'm not sitting here and saying that it's the best version of the deck. It's the version that I wanted to play. We're on 1 Gizmek Orochi. I have flip-flop back and forth between playing this and not playing this. The simple reason is it's kind of sort of another Garnet, but it is an extender. It's kind of good because you can really get a long way, especially since it's an 8, but it's bad because you banish a bunch of cards from your deck, and long story short, it's just another good card you can pitch off of Nightmare, and I decided to play it. There was 1 or 2 games where it came up, but most of the time I didn't even realize it was in my deck. I just was like, Nightmare, what am I pitching? Oh, I guess I'll just pitch another Symbol Skeleton, so it never came up. Oops, sorry about that. And then in terms of hand trap, we are on triple Ghost Bell and triple Ash Blossom. I really just like these. These are most generic hand traps for the format, especially considering I'm playing Bystials. That being said, I think main decking something else instead of the Bystials, maybe like Droll, Crow, Imperm, something like that, probably would have done better. But that was the main deck. Let's get on to the extra deck. So we are on 2 Galatea and 1 Longyearsu. They're fine. Galatea is an incredible card. Longyearsu rarely, if ever, comes up. I'm only on 1 Dingirisu. I think I definitely see why you play a second. There was definitely 1 or 2 games where it came up to where it's like, I already used Ding, I can't bring it back, and I wish I just had a second one in the extra deck. Honestly, I might cut the Longyearsu. Maybe I just haven't played this deck not long enough to know what it does. But the truth is, like, I just do not see a world in which Longyearsu comes up more than second Dingirsu. On to the Phantom Knights. We're just on a couple. Breaksword, you can technically make it, and then Rusty Bardish is incredible for the deck. You can do some pretty interesting stuff like Symbol, bring back Ding, and then you get Ding, Chainlink 1, Rusty, Chainlink 2. So that does a pretty sizable amount of damage to an opponent's board. Breaksword really doesn't come up a lot, mostly because you don't have a lot of 3s to go into. So there's definitely a reason to cut this. This is definitely a slot you could position into something else, but I think I'd cut the Longyearsu before I cut the Breaksword. Onto the Horus extra deck, I guess you call it. We're only on 2 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord and the Zombie Vampire. Photon Lord's great. It's a monster negate. It's powerful monster negate, that's all it is. Zombie Vampire is like the sleeper best card in this deck. Every time I made Zombie Vampire and resolved it either got me back into the game or it just got me so much more advantage to where I felt like I was in an unlosable situation. A lot of times I just like milled like Girsu, Orcust, Nightmare, and I summoned back my opponent's Fenrir or something crazy like that. So incredible card. Really good, really comes up. I don't think you play anything else. Like, you could play Hope Harbinger, you could play Coach King, but only 2 names. You can't really make Coach King all that often. and Hope Harbinger doesn't usually come up. I'm like, it kind of does if you're afraid of evenly matched, but and I don't even think it stops you. It might just be a spell negate, but point is, I think that those rank 8s are good. We've got IP and SP. If you can't afford SP, I mean, we're already playing the Horus package. If you can't afford SP, that's totally understandable. You could definitely play IP into Unicorn. There are definitely times where it does come up where you're like IP into Unicorn, and then Unicorn can pitch a card out of your hand that you don't want in there. But for the most part, SP is just so much stronger. I think it will be reprinted here kind of quickly. I'm not saying that it will be, but Konami has had a habit of making really powerful secret rares that are, close to $150 and then reprinting them as ultis. But I think they would have advertised ulti SP. So maybe not an OTS-24, maybe an OTS-25, but we will see. Otherwise, that's that. Then on to some generic links. We've got Dark, and then I opted for Boral Sword in this deck. I can't really tell you why. The reason I opted for Boral Sword is somebody told me, oh, Boral Sword comes up a little bit more, it does more damage in this deck. Maybe that was historically, but there are more times where I was annoyed that I couldn't make Boral Sword when I could have made Access Code Talker than the other way around, where it's like, oh, Boral Sword won me the game when Access Code wouldn't have. I think the reason is because you only have one type of link monster, so you're only ever getting one pop off of Access Code. Whereas Boral Sword always does what it does. So some XCs were on Evil Swarm Nightmare and then Typhon. Nightmare did come up one game. It's just kind of an interesting other level of interaction where if you're like, oh, my opponent doesn't lose to Fog Blades, but they do lose to Book of Moons, it's something that could come up and could, win you the game on its own. Not saying it's an incredible card, but it is decent enough. And then finally, just because we are playing Bystials and we've got level 4s and everything, we are playing Chaos Angel. It's not the best card in the world. This is definitely a slot you could cut. You could play something like Jesus or something else, but it just becomes like with the Bystials and Girsu, or with the Evil Swarm Nightmare and the Phantom Knights, you can make a Synchro 10 where you don't need a tuner, and it does come up with a banish. So that is for the extra deck, or that is it for the extra deck, I should say. Onto the side deck, pretty basic, like I always say. Side deck is what I picked for the meta. Your metas might be different, so don't 100% go off it, but we're on triple Kirikara, triple DD Crow, triple Droll and Lockbird, triple Evenly Matched, 2 Pankratops, and then 1 Phantom Knight's Wings. This might be the only contentious pick. The reason I picked it is because Fire King destroys a lot, and Wings prevents destruction once. So if your opponent goes something like normal summon a Ponix and then Kieran try to pop the Ponix, in games 2 and 3, when you side in the Wings and set it on your going first turn, they can't pop the Ponix. So sometimes that can just end their turn. I think it's just an option. It is super searchable, so the fact that you can get into it easily really does make it a viable pick, in my opinion, especially with how much Fire King was running around and will be running around here for quite a while. So that is it for the deck, guys. If you guys did enjoy and you want to see combo tutorials or something like that, let me know down in the comment section below. But that is it for me, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace!